but...
That was your hand. And I'm not talking about the juicy one.
No, we chose this life.
Clearly, we find it like
Oh, they're probably our biggest concern.
people are curious, I don't know. What you really should be scared of is very expensive. The end. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. I'm Katie.
I'm Jace.
And this is our off-grid island home.
Today we're going to go through some of the questions that got asked in our full house tour video from last week and some other questions we've had along the way.
We're going to answer the most common questions first and then the juicy questions towards the end of the video. The most common question that came up from our previous video was about insects, bugs, mosquitoes, creepy crawlies, how do we keep things out of the house. I think it looked like from our house tour that the louvered windows didn't have screens on them, but they actually do.
Yeah, the house, every house on the island is fully screened, and that's super important because we do have all sorts of things that live in the jungle, particularly up here because we're surrounded by jungle.
Yeah. We also actually installed screens for this front door here, and same with our doors over to the office, but one side of it's caught and it's also gone a bit moldy, so we need to do a bit of work on that, but good in theory. I'll show you what I mean. So we have this screen here which we can pull across on days when it's really hot. That helps to get a bit of the hot air flowing out of the house and let a bit more breeze in. But yeah, it's quite moldy and one side of it's a bit caught on the bottom. And because we're in a tropical climate, we do of course have mosquitoes here. There are so many mosquitoes out here. Outside like this, they're just everywhere. I feel like they breed in their pandanus palms, which are all around the house. Luckily for us, here on Uepi, we are not concerned about malaria or dengue fever or Zika virus.
There is malaria in the villages and it's something that the population here has to manage ongoing, but luckily here on Uepi, we're free from those concerns.
So mosquitoes are just really annoying and they're already biting my feet sitting out here. We've had a lot of things inside our house that you wouldn't really want in the house.
Get out, you bloody thing. Okay. We're at the kids' bathroom. Oh my god, that was so funny. Come on, guys. Whoa. Okay, come on. Here, come open the door. Let me run some more out. You open the door, the other side.
A few moments later.
Alright, the bats are out. We managed to swap them out the door. Scare them out, that was intense. 3 people, 20 minutes. Oh, they're out here feeding, this is where they've come from. Crazy. Ah! Tiny little micro bats.
So they're not a pest, they obviously we don't want them in the house, but they're beautiful little bats, but that was quite a mission to get them out. We've had crabs inside, lots of bigger stick insects and millipedes, things like that. Spiders, there's a lot of spiders here. I don't think too many of our spiders are dangerous here on the island.
Jesus, look at the size of it. That just ran down straight in front of my face. Oh.
But I did actually get a spider bite last year that went nasty really fast. I was actually pregnant. Typically with insect bites or spider bites here, because of the tropical climate, what you really should be scared of is bacteria and the things that can fester in a tropical climate. So I got a tiny spider bite that turned into a necrotic wound that got really infected and got bad really fast last year. Luckily, I was already in transit to Australia for a pregnancy checkup. I ended up in hospital with that one and had to have the wound debrided, and then was on antibiotics for a long time and out of the water for a long time because of that. But typically you can't blame the spider because it's the bacteria on our skin that's opportunistic.
Good short answer.
Anyway, that's my short answer on that one. There are a lot of questions about what other creatures are here that might be dangerous, I suppose.
Yeah, so the snakes on the island, there's one mildly venomous snake. Great find, Ale. There's a beauty. Brown tree snake, I think. Pretty rare on Uepi. First time I've seen one in a few years. Well, that created a informal smoko. Everyone just fled the roof.
A loss of staff members over a tiny tree snake.
Oh gosh.
The guys, some people here are so afraid of them they pass out.
Petrified.
Very funny. He's in the tree now.
He's good.
Sorry for disturbing your home, buddy. Sorry, mate. You can stay.
There is also centipedes on the island. They're probably our biggest concern, particularly because the kids love being out exploring in the jungle so much.
Yeah.
They're pretty venomous.
We've just been paddling around everywhere in this kayak and we stopped and there's a freaking huge centipede. Oh my god. Oh!
And then the bears. Okay, get out of the boat and then the bears. Just in case.
Yeah, aside from that, really.
In the ocean, there's quite a few things that we are aware of that are very rare.
Stonefish, jellyfish, all those sorts of things are around. But the reality is, in this environment, it's nowhere near the number or severity of poisonous or venomous animals like Australia. You just need to be respectful of the environment and the animals that live in it, and you can live very cohesively in this amazing place.
She's got two tiny ones.
Oh, beautiful shells. Our children are really fortunate to have spent many hours in this environment with their grandparents who are particularly knowledgeable. Jill, with a background in teaching and a love of science and our natural ecosystems, is especially thoughtful in how she educates Arlo and Ophelia. It's obvious when you see the discoveries that they make and how much detail they pick up when playing outside, and also how careful they are around live creatures.
There's two of them.
No way.
Finger there.
Look
Okay,
at
have you got them?
that. See the little shrimp filly? Look at that. I should probably do it in slow-mo. That is so cool. Billy, come on, darling.
Wow. So even though the water here is very warm because it's shallow and exposed during low tide, the water in the deeper area is comparatively cool and the corals are growing beautifully.
The jungle tries to take back over the house.
Yeah, the ants still think that this is their space, and it's not.
All part of the fun.
The kids, however, are pretty aware of dangers on the beach and the shoreline and the shallow reef. So we do have things like cone shells, blue-ringed octopus, sometimes dangerous jellyfish.
Right, the kids have actually just come back from the beach before, and they brought back with them this jellyfish, which they found floating near where they were playing at the beach. And yeah, we've just ID'd it, and it's actually a box jelly, so it's a really very dangerous jellyfish. Very lucky that they found it and got it out of the water for themselves, but also for any guests who are around. Good job, kids.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Ophelia.
Good job. And who's this?
It's called Arlo.
He's called Arlo.
Other than that, the jellyfish, sometimes we get large smacks of jellyfish that come through particularly the thimble jellyfish. They tend to be seasonal or come in with currents, and when there's lots of those in the water, we avoid getting in the water. I feel like the things that most people would be afraid of, like snakes and spiders, the things that seem like scary, are not really scary here.
No.
Beautiful snakes, little boa constrictors. Where are we from? What is our background?
Funnily enough, we're actually both from the same small town in Australia, although we never met in Australia. We met at SCUBA, our tiny little World War II airstrip.
Essentially here at Uepi.
Yeah.
But we're both from Townsville in North Queensland, Australia, which is a very tropical part of Australia actually. Similar climate to here, and quite a small town when we were growing up there.
Yeah, so I've lived here on and off since I was 2 months old. My mum and dad have been involved since before I was born, and
the early 80s.
Yeah, we sort of used to, don't tell people how old I am.
I'm sorry.
We used to travel back and forth a lot more, whereas for the last 24 years mum and dad have been permanently on the island, and I've been here for probably 15, 16 of those years.
Aside from uni. I've now lived here.
Babies.
Yeah, that's true. I grew up in Townsville, and then I moved to the Gold Coast when I graduated from university. I'm actually a pharmacist. That was my degree that I studied in Townsville, and then when I met Jace, not long after we met, I moved over here, and I've now been here for 10 years this year.
It's crazy.
So that's our background. Are there other people on the island? It seems like we're living in a resort, or what's the situation?
It's a bit of a hard thing for us because we're always conscious of having clients in the resort at the time and not filming in and around them. So yes, there's definitely other people on the island. It's a little hard for us to show exactly how many people are here all the time because we're very conscious of filming around our clients and respecting their privacy. But generally speaking, there is my mother and father, Katie and myself and our 3 children. Molly is here. She's our assistant manager who's also helping out with the teaching role. Then we have one local staff member who's here with us all the time. No, that's Otto.
Oh, Otto.
And then Miriam is here with her beautiful daughter Maeve, who lives with us a lot of the time. So generally that's who's up here. Then we have somewhere between 20 and 25 staff members on the island at all times. And then we have somewhere between 12 and 16 clients on the island at all times.
So if you're new to the channel, the Island Life of Us, this channel is about us and our life and our family and how we're living this alternate off-grid lifestyle here on the island. And so we don't really film our guests and the resort so much all the time.
So yes, there is the resort that functions down there, and we live outside of that, but we obviously are a massive part of that, and that's most of our day. However, we have our family which has to exist in amongst all that and function as a family. We have to educate our children, all those sorts of things. I think there's a question about that later on. So that all happens in amongst it. So there's probably always about 40 odd people, 50 odd people on the island at any one point in time.
But it's a very small island, and the buildings and our homes, the resort even, we only occupy a really small part of Uepi. There is no local village on this island, so that's quite different to other places around the country where there might be accommodation. This is literally all that's here is us and the resort. Is the house cyclone rated? What do we do in an emergency like that? Would we evacuate? Would we bunker down? What would we do? Over the years, we've endured some pretty intense weather systems, including tropical lows and cyclones. In 2023, during the build of the resort beach houses, we had weeks of horrible weather, making construction really difficult and quite dangerous. That story is worth a watch if you're interested, as even though we had such horrible conditions, we pushed on and we got the job done.
If you're new to the channel, there's a whole series on the rebuild of the resort. So the whole rebuild and redevelopment of the resort is all Cat 2 North Queensland cyclone rated, which is in Australia probably the highest standard of cyclone rating that you would have, including our house, the main house complex, everything. So in the event of a cyclone, depending on its trajectory, its forecasted duration in the area, who we had on the island, our children, all these sorts of things would determine how we manage each situation individually.
And where we would kind of
where we
lock
would
down.
go, whether we would get the kids off the island, it all sort of depends. I've been here through a couple of pretty big storms, one Cat 1 that hit the island. Fortunately, we are far enough north, close enough to the equator, that generally speaking, the cyclones track south of us.
We still get the weather off them, but...
Yeah, so generally speaking, we're not actually getting hit. We're just getting the disruptive weather off them. However, we did cop one that came from further north, and we were meant to have one just as you were having...
I went back to have Darwin, you were still here, and the weather got crazy because you had to drive to Munda to get out.
You were in Australia when Darwin got sick, and we evacuated him and the Pacific Games. That was the last one that actually was tracked. Yeah. It was tracked to Cat 2 straight across the top of the island.
That was gnarly.
But it didn't eventuate. It didn't spin up until it got further south of us down the Coral Sea.
That's right, and your dad was left here by himself. When that one came through, everyone worked together to board up this house. So at that point, the glass windows were in, and we did board up the windows. And so yeah, like we would prepare as best we could to protect everything. Our house here, we face due north, and we do get weather in from the north quite a bit, and so the front windows, the big glass windows, as well as all of our louvered windows, we do close them up when there's heavy rain, just to stop rain coming in. But in a big storm, we'd probably get a bit of water in, but nothing that we couldn't manage. Yeah, and depending on which direction the storm is coming from, as far as the resort as a whole, we would migrate everyone to the buildings that are on the lee side of the island that are going to be copping far less weather than those that are facing the storm. So it just depends. We have also had some pretty significant earthquakes here. So we are in the, what's it called, the Ring of Fire? Yeah. We are in an area where we get lots of earthquakes, and our house now, Chyla, is actually the evacuation sort of point for the island in case of a tsunami. So we've had a few events where we've ended up this part of the island for a couple of hours waiting to see if a tsunami was going to occur.
Well, we're sitting here because we're all just getting to our jobs for the afternoon, and suddenly the whole world started shaking madly. I was up the main house with Kemmel here, not Kemmel, with Bobby, and everything was going shaking wildly. I think people were almost falling over, buildings were almost falling over. We had a really big, strong earthquake. And again, our position is quite fortunate in terms of it would be really unlikely for us to have a significant tsunami event here. Yeah, so we're actually on the northern side of a very large chain of islands, so big mainland mountainous islands that block us from the actual fault line. So, yeah, but there is a lot of activity around here. There's a lot of activity, but we are in a particularly safe area. Yeah, and there's a submarine volcano not too far from us. If you want to see more about that, there's a video, I'll link it up here. We've actually been out to it a couple of times when we've thought it was erupting, so you can check that out. Saving the really juicy ones. The really juicy ones. For the end. So keep watching. I'm scared, I haven't seen all these yet. What about education for our kids? What are we doing there? If you're new to the channel, then you might not be up to speed with what we're currently doing. Yep. This year we've employed somebody to help us out here on the island, Molly, and she is actually a qualified teacher, so she's now fulfilling the teaching role for our children. The kids are enrolled, well, Arlo is enrolled in a distance education program through Australia, so he's doing an Australian standard education, and that is delivered online. So at the moment he does a combination of online classes and then classes with Molly. It's working really well. Our old house, before we moved into this gorgeous, massive, beautiful dream home, our old house was a small sort of one-bedroom studio that's been converted into the schoolhouse, and that's where... It's a really great space. Yeah, it's working out really well. So we actually did last year's schooling in that home. While living in it. While living in it, working in it, and we actually implemented the program as the home tutor. Yeah, with the help of Alton, we employed a local educator as well. Yeah, and that was difficult just time-wise for us, so having Molly here to assist with other things, but also the education side of things, has just relieved a lot of stress off us and allows us to focus way more on our roles in the resort. And it's a great dynamic for the kids, having someone who is dedicated to their education rather than it being a parent. Yeah, I actually used the same program in 2001 for Year 9 and 10 at my high school. Yeah. And it's a phenomenal program. The quality of education that these guys deliver is, I would say, arguably
far better than you can achieve in a class of 20 to 30 kids. Child-specific learning and low class numbers it's a really cool thing, and I think it's definitely not a compromise on the academic side at all.
No.
People ask us all the time, also it might even be a question about how the kids go socialising and all that sort of stuff.
Do they have any friends?
Our kids have a bit of a different experience when it comes to meeting children their own age and developing those relationships, because those people do come and go and come back. So yes, they have lots of different friends from kind of all around the world.
Yeah.
I guess it's hard for them at times to understand why those kids go away, but they also have never really known anything different. So they're very good at making friends, creating those bonds. They socialise with a really diverse age group of kids as well.
And adults.
And adults for sure, but just on the kids side, like we may have an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they find a way to fit in and do things with them as well as if they had someone who was exactly the same age as them.
Yeah, so we don't have any concerns.
Zero issues.
Our plan with educating the kids is to continue doing what we're doing while it's working, and if something changes down the line, then we'll address it then. But so far, I think it's working out really well. The other amazing benefit of the setup that we have is that because of where we live and the incredible things that can happen on any given day, if something does come up, like there's orcas in the passage, or there's a blue whale, or there's migrating manta rays, we're going to pull the kids out of school and go and do that incredible thing and sort of prioritise those life experiences, because that's what it's all about.
And then you can actually come back and do those lessons at a later time, so you're not losing any of that.
Yeah.
But you're gaining that flexibility to just
great program.
Maximise living this life.
We could probably make a whole video on that.
That one likes to gate crash all of the videos. What's the next one, buddy?
What's the next question? What is off-grid? I saw you have electricity and you turned it on at a switch. Yes, we have electricity. We're currently generating our power using a generator, a diesel generator, and it's been in the plans for a long time for the whole island to switch to solar, which is obviously a much more sustainable option. But our plans were kind of disrupted by the pandemic and losing business for several years and not having any income, and so at the moment we're in like a transition phase where we're trying to keep things running. You've been having massive problems with the generator. No problem.
Yeah, the brand new generator actually, which is the one that's been giving us dramas. But yeah, so at the moment we generate our own power for the entire resort and we take our power from that, but hopefully within the next sort of 12 to 18 months, we'll do a full solar conversion for the entire resort. So not putting solar panels just on our house and doing little units everywhere. It'll be a large system that will... right there, bud. It'll be a large system that supplies the entire resort, us included.
And we'll always have probably generators as backup. We also have pretty high demands here, just depending on what's going on in the resort, but we do run big freezers, and we've also got freezers and cold rooms, and we've also got the compressor. Because we're a scuba diving resort, we have to fill dive tanks, and so yeah, setting up our power system is going to be somewhat complicated, but it's getting easier and easier now with all the options out there. And yeah, so working on getting those things set up soon.
Just had some rain noises in.
Rain and ocean sounds.
What did someone say online the other day? It's okay.
Someone said they have to pay for a sound machine because they live in the city for ocean sounds. Well, come here, you can have ocean sounds, rain falling on a leaf roof,
frog sounds.
Yeah, a chorus of frogs at night, the crickets, it all happened. Off-grid, but we have internet. Yes, we have internet. We have satellite internet here. It's very expensive. The end. I just did a big cough, and then the next question is hospital, medical. What do we do for medical needs?
What do we do for you, buddy?
I think the reference was, and I'm not talking about a witch doctor. Can you say that?
Slightly.
I don't know.
Very culturally.
So there is a hospital system here, but it's a developing country, and so the system is already overburdened with the needs of the local population. We tend to travel back to Australia for any of our medical needs. We have had several occasions where we've had to do kind of soft evacuations, where we will get back to Australia and back to medical services quickly on commercial flights.
In a real emergency, you just get out and deal with the costs. That's kind of just the way you have to approach things when you live this remote.
Yeah, we'd probably, in a really bad situation, we would helicopter to the capital and then It'd be a
flight.
medical care flight to Australia, probably to Townsville or Cairns, or Brisbane would be the closest. Touchwood.
We have utilised some of the local health services during the pandemic. There's actually a couple of episodes of times where we had to, probably linked.
Things with the kids. And
Yeah, things with the kids. And so there are some capabilities, but we're also just really aware of the fact that we don't want to add to the burden of a system which is already struggling.
And now also with the connectivity with the internet, we can do telehealth appointments privately with our doctors, and we tend to travel back to Australia frequently enough that whenever we do go back, we're doing all of those routine checkups. We go and do the dentist and optometry and all those things for the whole family when we bounce back to Australia. So I think we answered before, but someone also asked, where are we from? We're Australian, but living in the Solomon Islands.
I've lived far more of my life here now than I have in Australia.
You're still an Australian. All right, it's getting juicy now.
Juicy? Don't know that's the right word.
I think a lot of people want to know how we sustain this lifestyle. Like, how do we live this life? Like I guess touring our new home that, which by the way, we've worked really hard to be able to build this in the last few years. It's taken us 3 years to build it. But how do we do it? What's the situation is what people want to know.
Well, to start off with, first of all, we actually live a very simple life. Because living out here, there's not options for purchasing lots of things. So basically we just focus on the things you need to survive, and we work. So we've both worked in the resort for over 10 years now, or you're on 10. And yeah, we work every single day virtually. Living in a resort environment, particularly one as small as this, you really struggle to have any days off when you're not like off the island. So even though at times my mum and dad, who are also still here and working, are working on the upfront side, so they're the ones who are present in the resort.
There's always stuff
that means we're
on.
working on back end stuff. I think the thing that I get asked the most, and I didn't see it in any of these questions here, is like what our day looks like. And we've done a couple of day in the lives of family life, like what the day is like as a family. But maybe we need to do one as like what it's like to do a day as a resort manager on a remote tropical island.
Let us know in the comments if you want to see like a behind the scenes day in the life of the resort manager.
Yeah.
That could be cool.
I love that Mary's hung the washing in the back of our screen. Cool. Because my life particularly, I think my day is insanely diverse. So I will go from at times having to transport guests myself, working on diesel engines, petrol outboards,
fixing a generator,
fixing gen sets, fixing compressors, organising all the activities for the day,
welcoming new clients.
Yeah, 5 seconds later switching off, cleaning your hands, washing the diesel off and introing new guests into the resort, doing that front of house role,
planning menus,
then stepping into the kitchen and continuing to check and teach new dishes and refine the menu and do all that upskilling, and then being present and eating and socializing with our guests every day. Because if you actually want to sustainably live this life, you have to enjoy it. And I don't put on a face when I go down to the resort to socialize with our guests at all. It's actually the opposite. If you can find ways to enjoy the company of and learn and interact with people from all the insanely different ways of life that we get here on Uepi, then you are enriched by that, because it becomes your form of learning and entertainment and socialization.
We meet incredible people here. Some of the people that we've met and the conversations we've had around the Uepi dinner table are some of the most interesting.
And that's what makes it special. It's what makes it interesting. So although at times, like anything, you do need to find the energy, I need to find the energy to get myself in the right frame of mind to sit down and engage and enjoy, not
and then also
tolerate. I feel like that's sometimes what the perception is of a management role in this, is that you're just there to entertain and answer the same questions every day. That's not really the case. And otherwise you wouldn't sustain it, I can tell you that. You wouldn't make 2 years.
At the same time, then prioritizing our family life and the time that we spend with our children, and making sure we can prioritize eating meals with them and being around for key moments, and as much time as possible exploring and enjoying the environment with our family, because that's our why. That's why we're living here. It's why we want to be here on the island, is because it's so special for us to be able to have this lifestyle with our kids.
And being able to switch off, I guess, the pressures as well. I'm very, very good at breaking my life into
compartmentalizing.
pieces. Not in a bad way. Not
it.
packing down emotions or anything like that, but if things are busy, being able to say, okay, I'm home now, I'm with the kids, and in 15 minutes I'm gonna have to switch that back on because we've still got the issue with the compressor not running. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to be present for the kids.
Yeah, I'm not so good at it. I think it's a real learned skill, and you've lived a whole life having this balance of things going on, whereas I came from a background of like a 9-to-5 job and then switching off. And I think also being a mother with young children and the responsibilities of the home and the lifestyle in terms of how much time we do spend with our kids, it's a bit different for me, particularly in this season right now. We're also very responsible for our online presence for the business and now making videos for you guys. And part of the reason we started doing this was because during the pandemic we didn't have the connection to people. And
we weren't
really
sharing this world with people, which was such a weird feeling for us. Jace
and I are both quite social people. We love engaging and meeting new people and having conversations, particularly with like-minded souls who care about the environment and this spectacular place where we live. So that's why we started all of this, and it became so rewarding that we've continued it. And now I can see, particularly with our latest video, and there's more subscribers coming on, I feel like you guys are the people we've been looking for, who actually are quite intrigued by the lifestyle but also interested in the environment and what we're doing here. So welcome if you're new, and thanks so much for watching. If you're not already, make sure you do subscribe. We've got...
Tell a friend.
Yeah, tell a friend. There will be more underwater content for those of our audience who love our underwater stuff. There will definitely be more of that coming up in the near future. No, wait, there's one really juicy question.
I feel like that wasn't it. I guess that's...
Is it juicy? I don't know. I feel like it's quite personal. And we want to be honest, like, we're being honest.
What's the... Oh, is this
Some juicy questions. This is an actual question that someone sent us on Instagram. Do you have much alone time so that you can do puzzles?
Mate, like any family with 3 kids,
we
do
find
our
ways.
best.
Yes. We live a busy life, but we're not too busy. Someone actually asked us once in person, walking around the resort. What, do you remember what he said? I think he said something along the lines of, I hope you get plenty of time to be alone together. Okay, moving on.
I can't believe how often a question like that comes up.
People are curious, I don't know. Do we ever get sick of each other, given that we live on a small island and we live and work together? No.
No, we chose this life. It's a very conscious choice.
I can see why it wouldn't work for many people. I think you have to have a certain type of relationship.
You have to be super conscious of your relationship. Yeah. Obviously there's challenges. We struggle just like any couple and family does, particularly being parents. There's always things that aren't going to always align perfectly.
And we actually genuinely enjoy spending our days together.
I hope so.
Yeah. When he goes off and has other things happening, I'm like, where's Jace? I'm bored.
You did cry yesterday because you said that you felt like there was no one at the house at the moment.
Yeah, I felt a bit lonely. Like, Jace has been very busy. Yeah, no, we love it. One of our regular Uepi clients left a comment saying that every time they've been to Uepi in the last few years, Jace and I have been back in Australia giving birth with one of our kids. And so she said, do we need them to book another trip if we're planning a 4th child?
I know.
But no.
3's good.
We're not planning a 4th at this stage, so, well, at all. We're not planning a 4th.
I don't know where the question was. It was a while back.
I think it was on Instagram.
We get asked a lot.
If you're not following us on Instagram yet, this is our handle on Insta.
Yeah.
We share lots of stories on Instagram. One question that came up there a couple of times was, how did we meet?
We must have been asked this 100 times over the course of having this channel.
I volunteered as a pharmacist on a medical tour back in 2013, and we met essentially at Sege when it was still our World War II grass airstrip. As I sort of walked off the plane was when we first met each other, and then had those couple of weeks here on on the trip, but I had a boyfriend at the time, so I think on that particular medical tour, for me there was a big shift in perspective. I met a lot of really interesting people, including Jace, but I kind of realized that the relationship I was in at the time was not the right one for me, and so
your whole direction on life.
Yeah, a life-altering experience, deciding to volunteer and come out here to the Solomon Islands, and then
we reconnected when I went back to Australia.
Soon after that trip,
a month after or something like that.
And then the rest is history. It was only probably about a year of a long-distance relationship, traveling back and forward. We saw each other quite a lot in that first year.
Wasn't really that long distance, because I think it got to the point where 2 weeks was the cutoff.
Yeah.
And then one of us had to travel.
And then
you had a lot of leave.
I know, I did have a lot of leave that year. And then I decided that I would consider living over here, which I think came as a shock to you. And
for 1 year.
For 1 year. I came for 1 year.
That was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
A proposal, a wedding.
A proposal, a
3
wedding,
kids.
3 babies, a new house, all the things. It's all happened. So
here we are.
Yeah, that's the condensed version. If you ever come here and we have a chat at the Uepi dinner table, maybe I can tell you the long version. This is a good one. Have we ever wanted to give up the island life?
No.
It was really hard during the pandemic.
Yeah, actually that's not true. There's definitely episodes through the pandemic where we were really struggling.
We were very isolated, and I think we had periods like in that, because it was almost 3 years that we were completely alone on the island, just with your mum and dad and one or two staff members. And I think all of us had periods of ups and down.
Yep.
Where the others would kind of lift the others back up, and then someone else would kind of plummet into like a state of just really struggling. That was really hard. But even still, I feel like we saw the positives through it, and I wouldn't change that experience now, having had it. I feel like it's really shaped our current situation and where we want to be now and what we're doing.
It's funny, like even now, we were talking the other day about when we're heading back to Oz next, and like at the moment, I feel like we've worked towards making this life more and more sustainable for ourselves, and that's really, really important, because
you don't feel the
I have
need
no
to
desire
leave.
at the moment right now to go back, and I haven't been back in Oz for
7 months.
7 months. Normally, I feel like prior to the pandemic, we were like every
3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months.
We would try and leave, and I think that's just because you get a little bit island cuckoo, you get a bit crazy.
Being in the new house away from the chaos of the resort, definitely helps.
Definitely helps us, and we have a lot of comforts here. We have a nice coffee machine. We have.
That was the best investment ever.
Yeah.
If you drink a lot of coffee in Australia, just buy yourself a
We realise how lucky we are. You know, even now seeing Molly go through the experience of having several months on the island, sometimes you've just got to get off the island, and that could be just for a picnic on another island, but it really helps.
And it helps you appreciate the life you have even more.
Yeah, which reminds me, we're actually heading away soon, and so there will be some episodes coming up of a pretty wild adventure. So make sure you subscribe and stick around for the videos that are coming up, because there's going to be some cool stuff. And yeah, we should probably wrap it up. We have to go and check on our kids, and thank you so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing if you're new here. Make sure you leave a comment if there's something else that you want to know answers to that we haven't answered in this video.
Back from the beginning. We've covered a lot over the years, and although a lot's changed, there's some cool content. There's some cringe content too.
Yeah, there is. We've got there's a couple of playlists there. So there's our build series, as well as watching from the start, and our more recent series, which we're calling season 2, is kind of since we've kicked off with YouTube again this year.
Darwin.
Since Darwin, yeah. And that's it. All right, guys, we will catch you in the next one. Liana Via.
Liana. The rest of the island, but.
That was your hand.